Welcome to the Lunch Hour with Mr. Credit.
Oh, well, he's very popular.
And today it's Macro Monday.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mundus.
Where we show you the big picture and how you can take advantage of it.
Show me the money!
And now, the Lunch Hour with Mr. Credit on ESPN Radio 1700.
Welcome. It's your Monday. It's your lunch hour. 1700 ESPN. Mr. Credit, it's JJ in the hot seat today for Mr. C while he takes a Monday off on this Macro Monday. Have a great panel in the studio today for you to make you smarter than everyone else. That's our goal always on Mr. Credit, to bring you some information that maybe you don't know, maybe you need to know. And maybe you can share this information with somebody who also can take something from it, because we all have friends and family out there that can't be listening right now. So share it. You can always go to mrcredit.org and watch the live stream. See us. We have cameras all over the place. We'll get those cameras loaded up and show you the 4-way or 5-way shot down the road here later today when we post that. But you can always watch the live stream at mrcredit.org. If you have any questions, feel free to email at mrcredit.org, and we'll try to get those answered on air today. So let's get to the introductions. We got two first-timers on the Mr. Credit Show, and I want you to remember that we bring you the experts in the field in these areas. So it's not just anybody. We're going out there, we're finding the best of the best to bring you the information that you need to know. So it's a real estate day today. We have John Lieber with RE/MAX Hometown Realtors. How you doing, John?
Doing great today, thanks.
And thank you. I know you're a busy guy, and appreciate you taking time out of your Monday to be here. Mondays are always a tough one, right? Because you're looking at real estate, you've got clients looking at real estate, maybe offers to review today, and yet you took the time out of your day to come here. We appreciate that on the show, and I know our listeners appreciate that as well. And to my right, Dale Entrekin. I hope I got that right, Dale. Sierra Pacific Mortgage, thank you for taking time out of your day.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great. And we will bring you back on again, so have no fear. And if you want to get in touch with these guys, it's real easy to do. So just go to askjjnow.com, shoot me an email, send me a text, give me a call. I'll put you in touch with these guys after the show. Obviously, during the show, we cannot talk, but we will make sure to put you in touch with them. Let's do a quick market update today. A little bit of red. It's not too surprising on this Monday. We've had some good days. The Dow is approaching that 17,000 mark. We just keep marching upwards. And it's interesting, guys, that, the sell in May and go away has not really happened this year going into the summertime. And do we have to be worried about this? I mean, here we are, right? Summer started. It's officially now summertime. I was waiting for that date, and I still don't know if it's the 20th or 21st, but we're now into summertime. And the Dow just keeps marching. I mean, NASDAQ's up a little bit. S&P's down a fraction. As far as if you're worried about interest rates, the bond markets are pretty stable today. Not much movement at all on mortgage-backed securities or the treasuries. And that's good because, last week the Fed's announced that they're going to trim back their purchases to $35 billion, and hasn't adversely affected the market, which still isn't astonishing to me, but we're working in that supply and demand zone. And, as we kind of march towards the 17,000 mark on the Dow, you tend to wonder, I mean, what are the rich thinking, right? What are the wealthy doing with their money here? And even down here on the way to the studio today, I was listening to somebody kind of talk about it. And it's interesting. I mean, there's some studies out here. And let's talk about the top 1%. Because obviously they have, the bulk of the money out there. And this is really just interesting. But a comprehensive study of wealthy families, and this was done by U.S. Trust, found that 40% of the high net worth investors feel bullishly optimistic about the market still. So we've had this run for a number of years now, and is it light and fluffy? Can it keep running? I mean, what do you do with your money now? Do you reap some profits and kind of sit on the sidelines? That, I think, is the question. And, I'm sure Dale is you're working with people, you see their assets, and, I'm always curious what people are doing, and, but here's the thing. If only 40% of the top 1% feel bullishly optimistic, there's 60% that are not optimistic. And this is just according to one study here. But is that something to feel, nervous about? And one thing we're going to talk about today is investment in real estate and in different strategies. And I think this all ties in together when you get down to it, because it's called diversification. Don't get tied up where all your eggs are in one basket. And I think, if you look at the top 1%, I can guarantee that not all their eggs are tied up in the stock market. And even if 60% don't feel optimistic, they're feeling okay because, it's not all tied up in one place. So 12% described themselves as fearful of losing money. 10% said they felt downright pessimistic. So there's 22% of the 60 there. So I think that the key takeaway here is you have to be aware of what's going on. Go for the long run. Go for the long run. If you're fearful of it, look, if you did nothing with your money when the market crashed, you'd probably be better off right now. If you just let it sit, you'd be better off right now than you were then. A lot of people pull their money out, they get nervous, they get scared, but just diversify. And Dale, what are your thoughts here?
Well, it kind of reminds me just more recently of gold prices. There was the people who were really bullish on it, and it was always going to keep going up, and the recession and the inflation and our weakening dollar value, and so essentially, that had a little bit of a reset, and I feel like at some point we will see some reset on the Dow, but at this point I feel like everything is real. There's a lot of uncertainty overall throughout the economy. We're seeing it, with the QE program changing, with them not buying the treasury, not spending as much. So now we're peeling back from that, and I think it's going to show itself, but I think it's going to be more in a
takes a little time.
Yeah, it's going to take some time.
There. Yeah, John, what are you? Any thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, I think. Well, one, the 17,000 to me is more of just it's just another number, and I read an article recently that what a big deal 10,000 was, and then 11 and 12 and all the way up, and so it is just another number. And I would say, looking at it from a long-term perspective is the way to look at it. It's not necessarily beneficial to focus in on hitting that number because you've got to look at the long term anyway. It's not a short term. You're not looking at stocks, at least for most people, like a short term investment. You're looking at, how's this run going to, be over a 5-year period, 10-year period until retirement, whatever that is. So I think for most people, you just keep, if it's related to stocks, you just keep putting your money away and saving towards the end goal.
Yeah. And I think that's what we always have to remember. Have a plan, have a strategy in place. And, one of the things we talk about, home buying and investing, there should be a strategy in place. And it's not just living in a home, but maybe that home turns into an investment property down the road. When it comes to a mortgage, we talk about mortgage strategy all the time because it shouldn't just be a big lump of money that you're borrowing. There should be some sort of strategy behind that and some sort of thought pattern in taking that out. What's the long-term goal here? What's the short-term goal with that house? And the same thing goes with your stock and your financial situation. And you need to have a plan. So don't just spin the dice and roll your crystal ball, but have a plan and think it through. It's really important to do so. Here's another interesting one. And as the population kind of grows, this is something that's going to come to play more and more. Recently my wife had a family friend, a dear friend of hers from 2 years old. Her grandmother passed away, and it reminds you when you hear people passing away, it just reminds you of what happens when someone passes away. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a family member. But you hear these stories, and some of them are bad. But it's about inheritance, and what's the negative side of when somebody dies? I mean, people don't know what to expect. And here's a really interesting article that CNN put out. But can you inherit your dead parents' debts? And it's something that you just don't really think about. But when you kind of dive into it, you kind of wonder, maybe your parents are pretty strapped. Maybe there's a lot of credit card debt. Maybe there's a mortgage on a house. Maybe, what happens with this if they haven't really prepared themselves with a trust, and I'll throw wills out of the gate just because wills don't necessarily protect you, but unless you have a trust that really defines certain things. I mean, what happens when mom or dad dies, and what goes on with that? And I know because I've had clients tell me this, but parents have died, and the credit card companies are banging on their door to pay their debts. And I'll tell you that if that's happening to you, or if it's happened to you, you're not responsible for that unless you're a cosigner on that card. So they may pressure you to believe that you are responsible. Now the estate can be responsible for it. If the estate has money, then yes, some liquidation might have to occur there, and it might have to pay that stuff off. Same thing with a mortgage. There's a house there now, and let's say there's no trust, there's no will. It's just, now it's in probate, which is a bad situation in itself. But, you get an executor of this estate now, and, in that case, it's going to be someone from the state, and they're going to look at it, and they're going to look at the assets, and maybe the home is underwater, and very well could be, and especially in the housing downturn. First mortgages.
If they did reverse mortgage before the housing crisis.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of reverse mortgages are underwater there. So, but it doesn't roll down to the heir. The heir, the children. You're not responsible for paying that. You're not responsible for paying a shortage either. The estate could be responsible for it. So make sure that you know your rights here. And I bring this up, and this article is at a perfect time because I had somebody in tears on the phone last week, and she said a credit card, I'm not even going to name the company, credit card company calling her incessantly. Mom died, few different accounts with mom. She has no part of these, and there's no money, but they are just banging on her door to get her to pay these things. And it's not her problem. So make sure you know what's going on out there. Make sure you know your rights. When we come back, we're going to talk about current real estate market trends. I mean, you hear a lot of stuff. You read a lot of different things. We're going to set it all straight today. And what that means with the recent trends, what it means for real estate investing strategies. What strategies do you have? What strategies should you have? It's your lunch hour, 1700 ESPN.
If you would like free advice from Mr. Credit, just call or text 619-786-7853. That's 619-786-7853.
Welcome back to the Lunch Hour with Mr. Credit. And today it's Macro Monday on ESPN Radio 1700.
Welcome back. It's your lunch hour. Thank you for taking the time during your lunch hour to make yourself smarter than the next guy out there. JJ in the hot seat today, Synergy One Lending. We have John Lieber, RE/MAX Hometown Realtors, and Dale Entrekin with Sierra Pacific Mortgage in the house today to talk about the real estate and all the trends that are happening. One thing about the trends that are interesting to me is depending on what you're reading on a given day, you're going to get different stuff sometimes. Now, what's nice is it seems to be a little bit more consistent than it was maybe a year ago or even 2 years ago because things are looking good. And it's a little easier to get consistent, data when things are all kind of pointing in one direction. But John, I want to kind of ask you, what's going on out there? You're in the trenches day in, day out, and you specialize in a kind of in an area, correct? La Mesa?
Yeah, I'm in La Mesa a lot, and then around that area too. So a little bit east of there, a little more towards San Diego State and kind of Metro San Diego. So that's my general area that I know well.
Okay. So what are the surrounding? You have La Mesa. You have what's to the east?
Just to the east would be El Cajon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Fletcher Hills, there's
Fletcher
some,
Hills.
a lot of nice homes in both of those areas, really.
Yep.
And La Mesa has become really popular.
Yeah. Well, that's a great family zone,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yep. Okay. So what's going on up there? I mean, let's talk about median home prices. I mean, that's always something that gets talked about. It gets released out in the news. I mean, what do we got there?
Well, just as far as where we are right now, I mean, the median prices in La Mesa are low to mid 500,000s, which is a little bit higher than just San Diego County as a whole. I like where the market is right now, though. It doesn't seem like sellers have a big advantage. It doesn't seem like buyers have a big advantage. It just seems like there's a balance. The good homes are going to go quickly, but it's good news if you've got a nice marketable home. You can still get what you would expect to get. I mean, things have increased, so sellers can ask appropriate prices for their homes. On the other end, if you're a value buyer and you're looking to get a deal, market time's gone up. The affordability of homes has gone down a little bit. So buyers can go in, and there's houses that are sitting for a while too. So I feel like wherever you are with selling or buying, there are some good opportunities. So
let's talk about inventory levels, because when we talk about homes sitting for a while, that typically it's a supply and demand thing, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, I know we talking about the stock market, the 17,000 kind of is a number that people are looking out for. I mean, just a couple months ago, our inventory levels were at 3,500, 4,000. Now they're over 8,000. That's crazy.
I listened to you guys just recently, and you were talking about how it just hit 7,000.
Yeah, right.
And now we're over 8, and we're growing every day. So
is that do you see that as a problem, or is that a good thing? And I guess it depends on which side of the coin you're on. But let's start with a seller. If you're a seller in today's marketplace, I mean, do you lose a little bit of power as a seller?
You certainly can. I think part of a good real estate agent's job is to come in and tell you, one, what can be done to make my house the most appealing to the widest range of buyers, and then two, set the price appropriately. I mean, it doesn't do you any good to set it really high or to try to ask way too much, because ultimately you end up getting less for it anyway. So I think part of the art in this, and it's definitely an art, is figuring out how all those factors play in, and then once you get that figured out, doing a good job of marketing the house.
And that's John Lieber, RE/MAX Hometown Realtors. And if you want to go to his website, very cool website. You can do a lot of searching. You can see some of the homes we're going to be talking about later in the show, some current and new listings coming up. But John, with an H, Lieber, LIEBER.com is where you can find John. You can always just go to Ask JJ Now and shoot me an email, and I'll put you in touch with John. So let's talk about projections. I mean, you have the National Association of Realtors. You got the California Association of Realtors. I mean, what is the let's localize it down a little bit. Not talk about even though we are talking about macro Monday, but let's keep it in California here. I mean, what are the CAR projections coming up?
CAR says we'll see about a 3.5% increase over the next year, and it's always tough to pin that down and project that far out or project out at all. But it looks that way to me. It feels that way. It feels like things are moving in the right direction, but they're not gonna just shoot up like they did over the last year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you don't want it to, right? No. I mean, that's the thing. We want stability, and for people to get into the housing market today and expect a 20% annual gain on their home, don't expect it. Be realistic. I mean, If you're a couple years late, that's okay. It's a long-term strategy. And let's talk about strategy for a little bit, because you're a real estate investor,
yes.
Correct? And how did you get started in that?
Well, one, my wife and I really wanted a house in this particular area, and we probably put in 4 or 5 offers as places came on the market, and we just didn't get anything. And the one that we saw was a 2-on-1, 2 houses on one parcel. Had a 3-bedroom house in the front and a 2-bedroom house behind it. And we thought, all right, well, it's really not quite the area that we want. But when you look at, okay, we can rent out this back house for X amount a month. They're paying more than half of our mortgage, and we've got the bigger house. This looks pretty good to me. So it really changed my whole mindset. And when I try to advise my really clients of all ages, but especially guys that are a little bit younger, if you're not going out and buying your dream home, if you can just change your strategy a little bit and buy one of those homes first, 2 to 4 units. I mean, Dale knows you could get the same financing that you'd get in a single family house. Mm-hmm. So you can do that. Your intention only has to be there for about a year before you move on to the next one. And you can use an FHA loan or VA loan. You can put 3.5% down on one of these 4-unit properties, and you can pretty much have your mortgage covered. And from there, if you do that 2 or 3 times, I mean, you can look out 25, 30 years and see what you'd have at the end of that. It's your retirement.
So let me ask you this, because you've been in this situation. I mean, one thing that I've had people ask me, I mean, it's like, well, we like the concept, but, do we want somebody that we don't know, living behind us or living on the same property? How was that experience?
It never even really came up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always things here and there, but there's always things with whatever it is, with having a rental property where you're not on site. So you're always going to have something when you've got a house that someone's living in and using. I mean, there's...
At least you're right there, right? When something goes wrong, they just walk over and knock on the door at 2 in the morning.
Worse, yeah.
Fix the toilet, my friend. So how are rents looking right now? I mean, I know for a while rents were just kind of ticking up. Are we still kind of in that upward trend as far as rents are concerned?
Yeah, I'm around rentals quite a bit. And so, I mean, the vacancy rate just dropped to its lowest level in 10 years. I mean, it's less than 3% in San Diego. And homeownership is at the lowest rate in a long time. So you can see that a lot of buyers, they really want to rent. A lot of younger people want to rent. And for people that have any kind of inclination towards investing, it's such a good thing for us. I mean, you can really go out there. You can command good rents for your properties. You can buy them at reasonable prices. And, it's a great strategy for one, immediate payoff. If you look at what you can cash flow a property for now, you're going to be getting that, assuming rents go up as well, for the entire time the mortgage is paid, and then all of a sudden it's all yours.
Now, can you do a cash flow analysis? I mean, if somebody calls in or shoots an email over, I mean, is that something you can do for them?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things. Is I've put together a great calculator myself, so we use it to compare multiple properties and just choose the best one. And it's basic. It's just looking at, okay, what kind of cash am I going to have to put into this, down payment, closing cost, any renovation, whatever it is, and what is it going to give me every month?
Okay, that's awesome because, I think people guess, right? Or they're looking online. Last week, I was talking to somebody, and we had gone over numbers. He was in my office, and we went over numbers, and he calls me, and he was like, my numbers aren't matching. I'm like, well, what are you using for your payment? It was totally off. I mean, I couldn't even figure out how he was coming up with the number. He's like, well, I downloaded some app, I'm like, dude, get rid of the app, man, because you're not close. I can't figure out how you're coming up with that number. So just get rid of that app altogether. So Jon Lieber, if you want a cash flow analysis, I mean, if you're looking to get into that investment game, maybe you're looking to live in a property and you're looking at that duplex, triplex, fourplex, or maybe you're just looking at buying an investment property. I mean, it's really important to understand the cash flow analysis part of it, and Jon Lieber can help you out with that. So just go to jonlieber.com or just email me at AskJJNow, and I'll put you in touch with Jon. So, Jon, one thing that I think about, you think about investing in real estate, becoming that real estate sort of mogul, is that you need big bucks for it, right? Now, you mentioned the 3.5% FHA, which is an amazing deal when you're looking to buy that. But, I mean, do you need to make $500,000 a year to get into the game, to kind of just get your feet wet here?
Not at all. I mean, when I bought that first house, especially, I can remember, pretty close to what I was making, and it was not a lot of money, but it was enough. One, when you buy something like that, you can use the rent that the other units are going to provide to help you qualify. So, I mean, I was I'm sure making under $100,000 without question at that point, and we were able to qualify and get this house that all of a sudden, gave us our start in real estate investing. And I love it when I see people follow that strategy, because you don't need to make a ton of money to do it. You really just have to be willing to perhaps live somewhere that's what you feel is not quite your dream home for a year or two, but it's going to help you build really wealth for the rest of your life without a big investment.
Yeah. Think of this. I mean, do you remember what you were getting on the unit? Maybe you still have it, but I mean, from a rental perspective.
Well, I know the 3-bedroom rents for $2,000 a month, and the 2-bedroom rents, the 2 bedrooms rent for anywhere between $1,200 and $1,400 a month.
So think of this down the road. I mean, you get into this game, 30 years old, 40 years old. Down the road, that thing's paid off, right? It's paid off. And now you just have this nice income stream coming, because is Social Security going to be there for you? Maybe. Maybe not. You have to think down the road, how can you create your own income? And real estate is a strategy to make that happen for you. When we come back, we're going to talk about some mortgages, what's going on with the mortgage market, where are rates, what should you be doing ahead of time when you're looking to buy one of these investment properties? How far along ahead of time do you need to get started on this? It's your lunch hour, 1700 ESPN.
If you would like free advice from Mr. Credit, just call or text 619-786-7853. That's 619-786-7853.
Welcome back to the Lunch Hour with Mr. Credit. And today it's Macro Monday on ESPN Radio 1700.
Welcome back to your Lunch Hour, Mr. Credit. It's JJ in the hot seat today, Synergy One. Lending with a great panel, John Lieber, RE/MAX Hometown Realtors. And if you just heard him, you want to get a hold of him. And I definitely recommend that you do. You just go to AskJJNow.com. Again, email me, shoot me a text, or give me a call, and I will match you up with John ASAP. We have Dale Entrekin with Sierra Pacific Mortgage in the house as well. And let's do a quick little mortgage market update, Dale. It's interesting. In the beginning of this year, a lot of new regulatory stuff came out in the mortgage market, and I'll try to dumb it down for people a little bit. But qualified mortgages, right? So we talk about QM. You hear that if you look online, you talk about QM, and it's called qualified mortgages. So this is just something that the regulators kind of rolled out, and loans that are sold to Fannie, Freddie, it's just sold everywhere. Let's face it. They kind of have to meet certain qualified mortgage guidelines, so they can't be high-cost loans. Debt to income ratios need to be in a certain level, and that's kind of not really all that true, because if you get an automated underwriting engine approval, then you can go above what qualified mortgage debt to income ratios kind of fall under. But it definitely is something that has tightened things up. And I think last year I heard over and over and over in the real estate community that things are going to get better. I hear it's going to loosen up. I hear it's just going to be easier to get loans. And then, we get to 2014 and, you know what, let's just tighten it up a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, one thing I'm hearing all the time is that there's going to be new loan programs out there. Banks are just, working behind the scenes right now, cranking away at these, analytics, trying to come up with new programs. I mean, have you heard the same thing? I mean, are you seeing anything new or different kind of coming to light out there?
Well, you hear that quite a bit. But what we tend to see more of is little tweaks and changes to the old programs.
Yep.
They may get improved pricing on the ARM products, or they may change something within the Fannie Mae guidelines that allow for it, or even like we saw at the end of last year, we saw DU tweak its underwriting system so that when it was picking up short sales, it wasn't putting them in the foreclosure bucket and declining your loans.
Right.
And so those types of things are what we tend to see nowadays. I mean, I think the days of the stated income, no asset type of products are behind us. I think at some point we'll see something roll out with the stated income for self-employed borrowers, but they're not really there today.
Yeah, and you do hear that. I mean, and it's interesting because I know people will get like an email, no doc, no anything. And it's just not accurate.
No.
It's just not accurate. And I'll tell you, if you want to put 40% down, you probably can get some money out there. There's plenty of people that, can kind of market that program for what they want, but just know that you're not going to get the interest rates that you think you're going to get. You're going to pay a price for whatever that is. You want 1 year out of a short sale, you want that loan, you're going to find it. You just got to put some money down for it.
Cash is king with all those.
Cash is king.
You have to have big down payments.
Yeah, put some. They're portfolio loans, and when people talk about portfolio loans, they're loans that stay within a bank, and they want down payment. They're taking a risk because you have a credit risk profile. They're taking a risk, and you want to put 40% down. You know what? If you default on that, bad for you because they just won that game. And my thing is this. I think it's pretty fair. I actually, sitting in the same lending space that you do, Dale, I think it's actually pretty fair right now. You got the FHA with 3.5% down. You got VA with nothing down. And for sure, treat the veterans right. Keep that thing. Don't change that at all. 5% down on conventional. You go to the high balance stuff, you need 10% down. You can structure it in a lot of different ways with mortgage insurance, even if you have to go the mortgage insurance route. Do you think that it needs to get easier?
See, that's an interesting question because obviously on the operation side and getting conditions from clients, you'd love it to be easier. You'd love it for them to not have to provide every detail of their bank statement of deposits they made, cash deposits for small amounts that you have to trace and backtrack on, and so you would love it to be easier, but for the sake of the stability of the market, I would say no. The big difference that when John was talking about prices last year going up so much, the greatest thing about that was people were qualifying for their mortgages. So it wasn't an inflated value going up because people were, overstating their income, not putting any money down and bad credit. It was people with pretty solid credit showing that they could repay on the loan. And so they're safer, they're safer debts, and so I feel like it's better for the economy as a whole to have stability in the housing market. I mean, it's the main driving force.
Yeah. And John, you might, I don't know what you see out there, but as we see these prices up, and Dale, I agree with you 100%. I mean, that's why I don't think it needs to get easier. I mean, I think there's enough buyers out there to fulfill the demand of that supply. And when we see that equity position going up 12%, 18% year over year, this is real. This isn't falsified. And you get people, you'll start to hear the bubble talk out there. You're going to hear it. You're going to hear some pundits talk about bubble, but it's a lot different than we were in the mid 2000s. A whole different ballgame. People were putting nothing down and not really qualifying with documentation. Now people are putting skin in the game. At least some people, a lot of people actually. There's a lot of cash out there, and people are actually qualifying under pretty decent, tight underwriting guidelines. So from a housing stability standpoint, I mean, John, don't you think this is a good thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I know what I've gone through in buying a home and qualifying for a mortgage and what I've seen my clients have to go through, and it's really not that bad. I mean, some of the requests from underwriting are tedious, but that's all it is. It's just really, a couple hours of your time to get these things in order, and they do matter.
Yeah.
Some of them we like to think they don't, but they really do. So I'm in total agreement on that as well.
People do get frustrated. I mean, trailing of money. And let me just say this: if you are in the middle of a loan program, or you're buying a home, or you're refinancing, and you're getting asked for things, remember there's a reason why you're getting asked for it. I mean, when you're trailing money, let's say for a down payment, there's a reason for it. The money's got to come from you if it's not a gift, right? If somebody's asking you to source large deposits, as Dale kind of alluded to, there's a reason for that because the money's got to be coming from you. Where did you get the money? Maybe it's coming from a silent investor, which is a no. You can't have that. So there's reasons for it. And John, you made a good point. A couple hours. Talking about a couple hours in entirety here to borrow maybe $500,000. Yeah. I mean, let's put it in perspective here. You're asking for hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase a piece of real estate. You should be asked for something. So I'm okay with that, and I get it. People do get frustrated. So Dale, let's talk about the investment properties. I mean, John, we just got through. I mean, there's really good opportunity out there. Even with prices have gone up, interest rates are still really favorable. And, investment property, qualifying for them, no different than buying a primary, right?
Yeah, in the real basics of it is that if you have multiple properties that you're investing in, then it can get a little tighter. 1 through 4 finance properties is pretty simple. 5 through 10 gets a little bit tougher, but they're still doable loans. It only gets tougher because you have to qualify the multiple years tax returns and showing your schedules of rents and getting all the documentations for the houses. But as far as it goes, be able to have multiple properties like that and be able to do the loans is pretty amazing, because you're going to be able to set yourself up, like we talked about earlier, for retirement with cash flow.
Yeah. And I want you to know out there, not all banks are created equally either when it comes to purchasing investment properties. There's some big banks out there that will not allow you to qualify with that rental income. So make sure when you go in that you're working with somebody like Dale here with Sierra Pacific Mortgage that can use rental income to qualify, because there's some big name banks out there that just don't allow, unless you have that landlord history of a couple of years, they're not going to allow it. And people get stuck on this. They work with somebody that's inexperienced. Oh, yeah, no problem. You get into week 3, all of a sudden your deposit's at risk because they didn't know their own guidelines, which are just overlays. Now know that. They're just overlays on top of conventional guidelines. So, here we are in June, Dale. The feds have pulled back another $10 billion a month. Now we're at $35 billion total between the treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. They've trimmed it down quite a bit, and rates are still pretty favorable. I personally, if we go back in time, and we were talking about the beginning of the year when they started about peeling the onion back here, I definitely think we would have been higher in rates. And here we are. We're still incredibly favorable. What do you think? You think this will just kind of continue down the summer?
It seems to be pretty stable as far as rates go for the time being, but I don't see that is a maintainable projection. Earlier on in the year, same way. Towards the end of December, beginning of January, when we had a little bit of a lull and rates came down after the peak in December, it was like, hey, get in quick, get your refinance done. You may not see this again because summer should be much higher. Then it turned out summer was lower. And we had, recently, I think just a couple weeks ago, we had our year low for interest rates. So it's so hard to project, because you can look out and you can see all these different reasons why rates should be higher, why rates should be potentially lower. But it's one of those day-to-day things. So what I always try to tell my clients is, I'm not going to gamble with your money. And I don't gamble with my own money, so I'm not going to gamble with yours. So if you're happy with where we're pricing it, then I would lock it. If I see something that's obvious with, unemployment numbers or something that's going to, bring rates down, then, you tell them to maybe cautiously float.
Yeah. But I think that's great advice. Great advice.
Yeah, otherwise it's like, let's get this locked and move on.
Yeah. And you know what? If an eighth is going to kill your deal, then you're probably buying too much house. I can tell you that. That's the one thing to remember. If an eighth is going to crush the deal, then look at something a little better priced, because you're pushing the limits too much, and your balance of your financials is not all in place. When we come back, we may have the house you've been looking for, because we got a lot of listings. Some are current, some are new, coming on the market from John Lieber. And you got to stay tuned for this, because we probably do have a house that you want. It's your lunch hour, 1700 ESPN.
If you would like free advice from Mr. Credit, just call or text 619-786-7853. That's 619-786-7853.
Welcome back to the Lunch Hour with Mr. Credit. And today it's Macro Monday on ESPN Radio 1700.
Welcome back to your Lunch Hour with Mr. Credit. JJ in the hot seat today, Synergy One Lending. If you have any questions today, you want to get a hold of our guests, because I know you're going to want to, especially after this last segment, when you want one of these homes, just go to AskJJNow.com and give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, and I will put you in touch with John Lieber with RE/MAX Hometown Realtors, or Dale Entrekin with Sierra Pacific Mortgage today. So, John, you brought in quite a list here. I want to get through these things because I know that there is a buyer, or maybe for all these homes. So let's. I'm going to just start from the top here. 4305 East Overlook in El Cerrito. Tell me about this.
Well, for those people who don't know where El Cerrito is, it is a small community, and it's a little bit south of San Diego State.
Okay.
So it's situated between El Cajon Boulevard and University, and it's a nice pocket of a lot of 30s Spanish-style, 40s craftsman homes, and a very, very nice community. And it's, like I said, one of the smaller ones that people don't know of. But this is a totally remodeled 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 2-car garage, nice yard for $499.
$499. So this is turnkey. You walk in, put your furniture in it, and you're done.
Absolutely.
Now, would you say family area, non-family area?
Oh, family area.
Family area?
Yeah, I mean, the neighborhood around there, the neighbors do an annual block party. I mean, it's a really cool spot.
Very cool. Okay, so El Cerrito, 3-bed, 2-bath, $499. You can't find much for under $500,000 right now. Totally redone. So that's one. Let's go to the next one. 580 Rimrock in Fletcher Hills.
Fletcher Hills, so it's 92020 zip code. And this is a very cool, very unique house. It's got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath main house, and then it's got a 1-bedroom, 1-bath guest house, half-acre lot, big lawn. I mean, this is what you would hope for in an East County type house, and it faces west. I mean, you're looking at the ocean on a clear day.
Awesome.
And it's $649. And
this is so going back to what we were talking about in the second segment here, investment strategy. Right?
Yeah.
You got the guest house on there. Now, is it a true 2-unit home? I mean, is it parceled as that?
No, it's not, but you are allowed to have a guest house up to a certain square footage on any property like that, and I think you'd be just fine renting that out if that's the route you wanted to go.
Perfect, yeah. So, I mean, possible income opportunity right there at 580 Rimrock, Fletcher Hills. This is John Lieber, RE/MAX Hometown Realtors. Go to johnlieber.com. and get in touch with John if you're interested in one of these homes. Bay Park, great area. You got 2 homes coming. Now, these aren't on the market yet.
Not yet.
Okay, so listen up. This is how you find the one for you because it's not on the MLS. You're not going to go against 20 people that have already put in offers. Let's check it out here. What do we got, John?
Well, without disclosing addresses, which I can't quite yet. I mean, one of them's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. 2,000 square feet. It's got a swimming pool and a big lot, which you don't have a lot of big flat lots in Bay Park. And it's going to be priced around $700, so it's a good deal.
Yeah.
The other one there, it's a bigger home. It's about 2,400 square feet, and the owner's actually done a lot of remodeling there. And this is about, I think, 10 years past or so. So
okay.
But it's a great-looking house, and you're actually on top of the hill where you look towards the Pacific, and then you look back east, too.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's a killer house.
So view home, I mean, views are priceless, especially in San Diego County here. You can probably vacation rent that thing if you wanted to.
And we'll be low 800s on that one would be my
Great price for Bay Park.
Yeah, it really is.
Great price. I mean, that's, it may sound a little high to some of you out there, but for Bay Park, great views, 2,400 square feet. I mean, some work already done. That's a great deal. Now, another new property, not on the market. I mean, I love this. This is how we put people in homes right here. University City. Tell me about this one.
So that's just east of La Jolla, and I represented the buyer and found the house for him. So it's a 2,500 square foot, 5-bedroom, 3-bath, and it's in process getting renovated. But for those who are looking in that area, that's a pretty small area as well.
Definitely.
And not a lot available. And that's going to be around $900,000.
Okay.
Which is very competitive for a 2,500 square foot.
So, I mean, is this
5 bedrooms? Too.
Is this going to be totally redone?
Totally, yeah.
Totally redone. So, again, turnkey.
New kitchen, new bathrooms, new flooring, new heat and air. I mean, all the landscaping. It's going to be ready to go. And
that's really important because, a lot of people out there don't have the money for the construction. They might have the money for the down payment and the closing costs, but they don't have the money, or they don't have the time, or they don't want to deal with it. I mean, trust me, I'm working on a water main leak at my house right now, And, those things are never fun, So if you can walk into something turnkey, great opportunity. This is not on the market. The last 3 homes are not on the market now. So you need to get in touch with us. Let's go to Claremont, another good area, Northwest Claremont.
Yeah, so we're just south of the 52. And we're currently in escrow to buy the house. This is a client of mine. So it's going to be one that's probably going to be 3 months out or so.
Okay.
But it's one where we're going to add a little bit of square footage. It's currently a 3-2, and it's going to end up being a 4-bedroom, 3-bath with an east-facing view.
So now would you consider somebody to buy this now, even though you're just getting into it now? The work hasn't really started. Would you consider taking somebody there and just making this, that long-term kind of goal, hey, 6 months from now, this is your home?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, if someone was interested in doing that, I know, people want to sell. If these guys want to sell it, that's certainly their choice. And if it made financial sense to them to not start the work on that one in particular, which hasn't been started yet, that could be a great opportunity for somebody.
Good. Now, this is something we don't get into a whole lot, but commercial space, this could be a great opportunity for somebody that is in that game.
Yeah, so this is it's around a $2 million purchase price, and for those that know, in investment terms, it's a 6.5% cap rate, and this is a prime San Diego office location. And it's fully leased with long-term leases in place, which, for those that know, leasing and commercial space, the leasing is the key to
that's what it's all about.
Value.
Yep.
So you've got good tenants, you've got good leases, and I know the seller would sell it with the right offer and buyer in place.
And the leases are also a big part of getting the financing for that commercial stuff as well. So when it's fully leased out, it's a different ball game. They're lending on the property and not so much the owner or the buyer of the property. So amazing opportunities. If you want to get in touch with John, just go to Lieber.com or just go to AskJJNow.com and I'll put you in touch with John Lieber, RE/MAX Hometown Realtors, or Dale Entrekin with Sierra Pacific Mortgage, who you listened to today. Guys, thank you. I know time goes by fast. We're out of time. Thank you both for taking the time out of your day to make us a little bit smarter today. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
It's your lunch hour, 1700 ESPN.
If you would like to contact Mr. Credit or access any free offers mentioned on the show, just go to MrCredit.org. That's MrCredit.org.